I just want to introduce you guys to Jodi Nelson. So she is the queen of the light station here. Our schedules are always crazy, and she's always super sweet and adapts to us, and is a wonderful steward of this property. So with that said, Bureau of Land Management, not something we typically always associate with the California coastline per se, although there's reasons to, as she'll probably tell us about. And so Jodi, tell us about this cool place we are here at Piedras Blancas.
People obviously wanted to come out here and see the place, but they were sensitive enough to recognize the fact that they needed a certain amount of management. Human beings are wonderful until they're not. So
that's a good quote. That's a good T-shirt. Human beings are wonderful until they're not.
So they wanted to make sure that access was managed or accompanied in some way. And then finally they wanted to see the light station restored to a period of historical significance. I think primarily they were talking about the buildings themselves, so the lighthouse, the fog signal building, this beautiful brick building behind me, and this little white building, and then there's one more historical. Now, BLM is obviously, it's a land agency, and we were, at the time the site was covered in ice plant. So 20 acres here on the federal property, probably another 300 acres on the state park property. And at that time that was Hearst Ranch too, it wasn't state parks yet. And so we had a lot of very invested folks that lived here in the area that really wanted to get rid of that ice plant and restore the land as well as the buildings. And so we had about a 10-year effort on the part of our volunteers and staff to hand pull ice plant off of this site, which was just backbreaking labor. We can't use herbicide or heavy equipment or disturb the ground in any meaningful way without going through a whole bunch of NEPA requirements. And at the time, I don't really know what the holdup on that was, but it took a while. So we had to hand pull all that ice plant out. And then eventually they got the okay to start using heavy equipment in certain areas that weren't considered active, well, not even active, but archaeological sites. But it was really limited as to where we could do that. And then there was just a general disinclination to want to use herbicide out here at that time. And herbicide doesn't actually actively remove the ice plant either, so that was another issue. So after about 8 to 10 years, we managed to get rid of most of the ice plant that's out here. We'll still find it on the bluffs here and there. And the issue with ice plant, in case you haven't heard this in any other coastal management classes, is that it just becomes a monoculture out here. It is an incredibly hardy plant that has this phenomenal strategy of excreting salt into neighboring soils so that it is the only plant that can grow in a certain space. None of its natural checks and balances are here because, of course, it's native to South Africa. And luckily, our native vegetation, all this coastal scrub, is well adapted to salt being in the soil and the air. And so as we remove that ice plant, we were very fortunate to see an existing seed bank come up. And it was also originally kind of a monoculture of this plant right here, Areophilum sticidifolium. This is in the sunflower family. It's always a codominant coastal scrub in California. And then it's codominant. This is coastal buckwheat, Areophilum parvifolium. And both of these plants will bloom year-round, though obviously we're in the low season right now. The cool thing is that this plant tends to be our spring and summer bloomer, and this is our late summer and fall bloomer. So we have food for pollinators year-round, which is really incredible. And as these plants started to come back, then our pollinators started to come back.